Of the dozens and dozens of these phones that hit the market last year, the Elephone S8 was probably the most well-received and drew the most intrigue, because it packed a relatively powerful chipset from mid-tier chipset maker MediaTek, and featured a Quad HD display. Naturally, those who follow this niche market are excited about the follow-up. And after testing an early pre-production unit of the device, we can say that the hype is justified, and Elephone is probably going to take the crown again in 2018's obscure Chinese phone brand war. The fact that Elephone rebranded the phone to U Pro instead of naming it S9 gives away the company's intentions. It no longer wants to be an obscure Shenzhen brand that makes shameless rip-off phones. Its previous two phones, the S8 and S7, were definitely meant to steal some of the web traffic for people searching for Samsung phones. This year, the U Pro is its own phone. Mostly, anyway, because the design is still very blatantly inspired by the Galaxy S8 or upcoming Galaxy S9, if you factor in the vertical dual cameras and location of fingerprint sensor. But considering that Huawei with the Mate 9 Pro, Xiaomi with Mi Note 2, and LG with the V30, have all released phones with similar designs, Elephone can perhaps be given a pass here. As a result, the Elephone U Pro is a gorgeous phone. It has actual slim bezels that can match the big boys, and a display that curves at both sides just like Samsung's phones. Elephone says they source the display from reputable brand BOE, another sign that it's moving past the budget knockoff route. There are two more key firsts for the U Pro when compared to other small Shenzhen brands. The first is that it runs on Qualcomm Snapdragon 660 chipset, instead of the much cheaper MediaTek processors that all other budget Chinese brands and Elephone previously used. Now, the 660 chipset is Qualcomm's mid-tier system-on-chip, but the fact that Elephone is working with Qualcomm is another sign the company is making a push to go legit instead of relying on MediaTek like most budget brands. The 660 is more than powerful enough to handle all smartphone tasks and games, just not at the speed of the 835 that powers Samsung and LG phones. The other key first is sort of funny. The U Pro has a real dual camera setup. You see, it's an open secret that many budget Chinese phones use a fake second camera on the back for decoration only, that the bokeh effects are software additions. Elephone is having none of that nonsense, and used California-based ArcSoft to optimize its dual 13-megapixel cameras. The phone runs Android 8.0 with a very light skin on top. Elephone's designers have clearly put some thought into its software skin too, because it's quite pleasant to use. For example, the U Pro has redesigned Android's navigation buttons. The biggest change is that the home button has been turned into a flat horizontal bar that resembles the iPhone X's swiping bar. And yes, that's exactly where Elephone we got the inspiration. The U Pro's home button can be swiped up to bring up the app tray. This changes the stock Android behavior of swiping up from the dock, and we like it. The back and recent keys operate the same, except for an aesthetic change. But that's not all. Taking a page out of the Vivo V7 Plus, you can hide the navigation buttons completely and go to a swiping gesture. Here's how it works: you swipe up from the bottom of the display, near the part where the button would be, to activate that functionality. So to go home, simply swipe from the bottom middle of the screen. To go back, swipe from bottom left. It works great, and we want other Android phones to implement this. Seriously, tapping on buttons, even virtual ones, to navigate feels a bit dated after the iPhone X swipe navigation feels more intuitive and futuristic. Another software addition is Face Unlock, and it works here almost as well as the OnePlus 5T, which is the standard right now for Android face unlocking. From my understanding, the U Pro uses the selfie camera to scan for facial identifiers, so it's not going to be as secure as the iPhone X's Face ID. But we tried fooling it with photos to no avail. Performance is good. It's not going to blow you away like the OnePlus 5T or Huawei Mate 10 Pro, but in my testing it handled every task easily. The 3550 mAh battery can go all day too. Let's talk about that display. It looks gorgeous, with punchy colors and deep blacks, and the curvature is just right. Elephone has also implemented some really effective palm rejection software, so we didn't suffer from erroneous palm touches like we did on early Samsung Galaxy phones that had curved screens. The camera app is a bit complicated to use but has a myriad of shooting modes, including really fun filters that can be used for photos and videos. The U Pro's shutter is fast and photos are surprisingly well balanced. It does suffer in low light situations, however. It's obvious Elephone really put a lot of effort into the U Pro. The company could have used a cheaper MediaTek chipset, could have went with the vanilla Android software that's found in most budget phones, and could have used a fake second camera. Instead it chose to pay Qualcomm licensing fee to use its SoC. It chose to go with a real camera, and an optimized Android 8.0 software. The result is the best phone from these little-known Shenzhen manufacturers yet, by miles. This comes at a cost, however. The Elephone U Pro, with 128GB of storage and 6GB of RAM, sells for $430-ish right now. There is a cheaper variant, without the Pro moniker, that sells for around $350. That device, however, uses MediaTek's P23 chipset, which will be less powerful, but you'll be getting the same beautiful design. Both devices are still much cheaper than the Galaxy S8 though.